Let's do it. Okay, we're live.
Yay! We've found each other.
Basically, so right now, we've succeeded in life. I think both of us can die happy right now knowing that we successfully did a Facebook Live. So
with all the stops,
yeah.
it worked out in the end. So funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was even saying, so anyway, let's introduce ourselves. My name's Sarah Watt, and I'm joined by my very amazing special friend. His full name is Megan Brown, but she's Australian. So obviously it has to be a nickname or a shortening of that. So welcome, Megs. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for
my pleasure
persisting while we got here in the end.
I felt helpless because I was sitting there just going, I don't know what to do. I can't even talk to you.
It's this emoji. It's
this girl will work it out.
Yeah. It was funny because I was sort of saying while I was sitting there, like, you know, a year ago or something like that, I would have been freaking out. I would have been so freaking out that, oh my God, the Facebook Live's not working. I would have been like, my heart rate would have been up. I would have been sweating and freaking out a little bit. And, you know, this live that we're doing, we titled Tools That Changed Our Lives. And, you know, there's so many big things, right? Like there's so many big changes that we go through. There's so many things that I've created in my life that I still wake up every day and pinch myself that it's true, like those big things. But just that, like having, when things are going sideways or not as planned, to still be able to have that sense of space and peace and relaxation in my world, I think would have to be rated as one of the top things that I'm so grateful for with these tools that we're going to talk about today and what they've changed in my life. Like,
I would agree.
Yeah.
It's internal and external, you know, like your external world's transforming, but internally so much is changing too, that you're just like accessing this new place of peace that you never knew was possible. And you're like, oh, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. Like, you know, things will work out. They may not work out the way that you think they will, but they do in the end, like this. That's a great example.
Totally. And yeah, I heard someone say the other day, like, how often do we spend so much time worrying about things going wrong when in the end they most of the time don't even end up going wrong? Like, we spend so much of our energy and our time thinking about all the things that possibly could go wrong. Whereas if you're just willing to always go to this place of like relaxation and ease with things, it's almost like you don't notice when they do go wrong because you just handle everything. Everything becomes really easy and really joyful. And yeah, I'm so grateful.
Flows.
Yeah.
It definitely flows.
So what do we want to talk about? Where do we want to go on this Facebook Live? We've, you know, spent 15 minutes getting on here. Now, what would we like to say? Is there anything you'd like to start with? Or
I would love to know your story, Sarah. Like, I think one of the reasons I pinged you and you were sort of, you know, thinking the same thing, that we do this live and have a chat, and, you know, our lives have changed so much. But I'm always interested in, like, you know, seeing you and seeing the things that you're doing now, like traveling and doing different workshops. And I'm sure your life has changed dramatically. And I would actually love to hear some of that first, if that's where you're comfortable to go.
Totally. And, you know, as a young girl that grew up in like a reasonably to very poor family as an upbringing, like we struggled a lot when I was a kid. Like I didn't have a super easy childhood, you know, for a lot of different reasons. But I was always a happy kid. Like I always knew that life was full of possibilities. But I never dreamed, like I sort of dreamt that life could be like it is now, but I never really saw many people around me choosing this miraculous and magic life. Like most of the people that I was surrounded with from a young age were very much embroiled in, you know, not really treating themselves very well and not really treating each other very well either. So I think at one point I sort of got to a stage where I was like, okay, like, you know, if this is all there is, then this is all there is. And you start to sort of resign yourself to the fact that maybe the magic and the possibilities that you thought as a child, maybe they're not really real. And then I came across this thing called Access Consciousness, and it took me a few years, you know, because by then it had been quite a few years of me really trying my best to function as a normal person in this reality where you deviate from depression and sadness into tiny bits of happiness, and you have your good days and you have your bad days. And it's not to say now I still don't have those times where I'm a bit like, oh, this isn't so fun. But now it literally lasts for, 5 minutes to 5 hours maximum. Whereas it used to be like days or weeks at a time that you'd just be like feeling like you were struggling against the world. So yeah, I guess my whole life I've been like this sort of bit of a self-sufficient person. Like I've gone out into the world and just kept exploring things. But I think from the moment that I found Access Consciousness and started delving into some of these tools and some of the different things that Access offers is when I started to realize no matter what's happened in my past, I can actually start rewriting my future from right now. I don't have to wait for someone to save me or to help me. I don't have to wait for everything to be perfect in my life before I'm happy. I can literally just wake up every day and chip away at it and look at, like, really, if I wanted to have everything in my life the way I want it to be, what would that look like? First of all, like getting really clear on what that is for me. And I'm still getting clear on it. I mean, I still look at, the things that you keep doing things to please other people, or you think that's because that's what you need to do. And still I'm learning now, like it's actually when you're willing to be clear about your reality and what you want your life to be like, that through that, the people around you actually have more space to choose that as well. And also an invitation to a different possibility. So
can I
I mean, please.
So when you say it took you a while, like, so what's that energy for you? Were you just resistant to using the tools that you had available, or was it just like there was so much familiarity with your routine and stuff that you just couldn't sort of let it go? What was happening there?
I mean, and I mean, even though my childhood was quite shitty, by the time I got to like into my 20s and stuff, I had a pretty cool life. Like I worked with animals for about 12 to 15 years or something like that before Access. Like I knew to a degree what I wanted, and I always gravitated towards that. So I worked in animal welfare. I was in a relationship with the guy that was actually very kind and caring and nurturing of me. So it wasn't like I had this super shitty life. So I found Access and I was like, yeah, that seems pretty cool, but I'm not quite ready yet to give up this reality. Like I was partying a lot. I lived in Sydney. I was in my 20s. I was kind of living that city party life. And I think the very first time I got my bars run, so Access Consciousness bars is sort of like the first hands-on tool that you learn in Access. And at the time, I sort of dismissed it a little bit. But the funny thing about consciousness, and especially about Access Consciousness, is it's like a little seed got dropped into my universe at that moment. And no matter how much, like if I shone a lot of light on it and gave it a lot of energy, it would grow very quickly. But even when I sort of did this thing of like, I'll look at that in a week or a year, it was always there. It never actually left me from that very first bars session I had. It was always niggling at my universe. And it wasn't until a few years later. I'm such a business-minded person. I love working. I love working. I love looking at businesses and working in businesses. Yeah. And that's actually the thing that pulled me back into Access, was the fact that my jobs were always great, but I still always got this sense that there was something else available. And I actually was attending classes and meeting people in Access, but it was the business model that they based. And I watched the people that work with Access and the life they were living. And I was like, you know what? That actually matches something for me. I wasn't sure what. And that's where my next step came in. I attended a bunch of classes, and then I was like, what would it take to actually work with these people and be part of making this bigger and more accessible in the world? So, yeah.
So when do you think that moment was that you sort of went like, yeah, this is cool. This is what I actually like know is possible. Was it a particular class, or was it like just meeting certain people? Like, where did that click for you after having a moment of like resistance and stuff?
I think it was when I was living back on the coast here and managing another business, and just seeing how much of my energy I was putting into making other people's businesses successful. And I'm sure we've all been there. Anyone, doesn't matter if you're the manager of the business or you're washing the bloody dishes, like you sort of get this sense of like, hey, I am a huge contribution here. Like, I'm a huge contribution for the role that I play, but also me as a person, like what I put into this business and into this job on an energetic level. And I was working in this job and I just one day was like, this just isn't enough for me anymore. Like, it's just like this actually, you know, spending all of my time and energy growing this business for someone else, it just was that light bulb moment when I went, boom, this isn't working. And from there I asked some questions, and from that, actually, like, I was like, it was literally a moment, and I can almost recollect the exact moment. I was like, you know, this isn't working for me anymore. And it was kind of this question formulated in my universe, like, what would it take for me to start working on my terms and contributing in the ways that I'm appreciated, quote unquote, for what I'm doing a little bit more. And literally it was like a day or a week later, this internship showed up on Facebook. So 2 facilitators in Access advertised for some interns, and I applied for that. And I didn't know it was mostly system-based things, on working on systems I'd never used before. But I was like, stuff it, I'm just going to dive in. And that was actually the moment that shifted everything. I did the internship, and from there, people just started talking about I was good at stuff. So people would be like, well, do you want to do this? And I'd say yes. Do you want to do this? I would say yes. And I'd be like, I actually have no idea how to do that, but I'm just going to say yes, and then I'm going to figure it out.
That's so cool. So how many years ago would that have been now?
I reckon I must have started that internship. Geez. God, the whole COVID thing, it's just my sense of time is like maybe 7 years.
Yeah, wow. Cool.
Yeah. And literally I started as an intern. Like, this was what I did. I wasn't really getting paid. I was receiving a little bit of money, but just contributing. And now my roles, like, you know, if I gave everyone my list of what I actually do in Access now, you know, I'm one of the worldwide event creators. I'm one of the worldwide coordinators for live translation. I coordinate the events here in Australasia, so through Australia, New Zealand, and up into India and the Asian countries. You know, I work very closely with Simone, Gary, and Dane on the future of the business. And it really was all sparked from that one moment where I was like, I get that I have more to offer than what I'm currently doing. And I would like to be in a position where my true capacities were being used, I guess. And I think that's what I'm still choosing every day. And hey, Megs, it feels like it's still the beginning. I still wake up every day and it's not like I have these roles now and this is my future mapped out. No, every day I'm like, what else? What else? What else? Yeah.
Yeah. And I can relate to that, you know, like, even though my path is totally different than yours, but like now 4 years sort of in of using the tools of Access Consciousness and getting my bars run, I feel like every day is so fresh for me. Time is not really relevant in my world anymore. And it's just like, I'm enjoying everything so much that it feels like I've just started it quite often. So I relate to that. Like, I can see why that time is like to you so hard to pick, because people ask me too, and I'm like, I think it's for 4 years maybe. But you do. It's just you're enjoying it so much, and I think because you actually have asked, you know, questions to create the greatest for you personally, and it feels good.
Yeah, and so true. Thank you for saying that, because and everyone's path is so different, but in a lot of ways it's very similar as well. And that's another thing I've learned about consciousness in general. You know, Access Consciousness is this one vehicle, this one modality that contributes to us on this path towards consciousness. But consciousness is a thing, right? Like, it's this however you describe it. And the thing I'm starting to learn is anyone that is choosing more consciousness is connected to everyone else that's choosing more consciousness. So you're never alone. You never, like, it's this space where you truly are connected with so many different people. And you're, like, I call it like the meandering path to consciousness. Like, we're all on this path. We're all at different stages. Some of us might be going in different directions, but we're actually all on the same path together. So there is such this place where, even though all of our stories are very different, they're all in some way connected to each other, which I also am loving more and more every day, because you can be alone, you can choose your space, you can have your peace in your space, but you're also always connected into this like greater network of something as well, which I love.
I think that definitely is something for me as a huge change was I've always had quite a successful business with lots of people around me. And it
Yep.
wasn't until Access Consciousness that I wasn't lonely. And I have less
Yeah.
people around me now.
Cool.
Like before, I was just
Cool.
surrounded by people, but I felt like I was navigating it all myself. Like it was just so,
Yep.
it was lonely in a sense, unless I was there in those moments with the people who were participating.
Yep.
I did feel alone. And then, moving into this modality and learning so much more about consciousness and that we're all connected and meeting
Yep.
so many lovely people who have the same sort of like belief base as me, I
Yep.
very rarely feel alone now. Like
Right.
you and I don't know each other well, but sitting here in your presence, it's just comfortable
Yeah.
because we have
Right.
that, we can just share the energy together and we know it's going to
Totally.
create something great. And I love that. That has opened up for
Me
me. And
too.
I'm so grateful for that of Access Consciousness because, yeah, I don't feel lonely now. And it's made me a happier person to not
Yep.
have that sort of void, I guess, sitting there in my
Yep.
world.
Cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool. What an
it is a cool
acknowledgement.
change.
That's very cool.
It is a cool change. And it's not even being with like being with certain people. It's just knowing that there's so much more available for us
Yep.
outside of this body, for
Yep.
starters. In the whole like universe, there's so much more available for us.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and the exact same for me too. I like my whole business has just changed dynamic and I love it. And I love
Yep.
exploring new things like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the way I used to function was a need. Like there was a need there for me to feel validated, or a need for people to acknowledge me, or a need to be surrounded by people in order to feel like I was someone,
Successful.
like I was
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another huge thing with Access that's helped me, and another tool that's really changed my life, and it's not like I can pinpoint exactly, like a lot of this stuff happens almost like holistically. Like the moment you just start choosing things, because I had a private session with a lady the other day. A client just booked a session online. I'd never met her. She lives here in Australia. And we did this session, and she came on and she literally found Access January this year. She's had her bars run a few times and she's going over to Adelaide to attend her first bars class. And I got so damn excited because I was like, oh my God, your whole world's about to change. And she did that thing that most of us do when we find Access. She's like, I'm so overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of stuff. Like, what tool do I use? What question do I ask? And I was like, don't even worry. Like, as long as you're choosing, everything is going to change for you. Absolutely everything. And I said, there's no guarantees in life, they say, except for death and taxes. But I can guarantee and promise you, if you choose this stuff, over time, every single thing in your life will begin to change. And you won't even really need to try super hard. Like, I think we also have this thing in our world where, oh, if I want this amazing life and I want peace and relaxation in my world, I need to meditate every day for an hour. I need to go to university and do all of these courses. And I'm not saying don't do that. If that makes you happy, do it. But the cool thing about consciousness and the tools of Access that really, for me, bring consciousness into something that's digestible and that's usable and that's pragmatic, is that everything just changes. All you've got to do is choose, and your whole life will just continue to change. And it never stops. You never get to a point where, oh, I've been doing Access for 10 years and now I'm like, oh, at this level where I am conscious. It's like, no, you're going to go on this journey and you're going to keep going, and everything is going to keep changing and keep getting greater. So, yeah.
And even when you say, and you just keep choosing, it's like, I feel like it's, you just choose you, you just choose
100%.
you and the things that light you up, or the things that feel the best to you, and everything gets greater.
Right.
Because I feel like we don't get taught to that. We get taught to choose everyone else, and it takes us on all these external paths. But when you're really honest with yourself and you're just like me, and then not in a selfish way, just like in an enthusiastic, excited way, like, yeah, I'll choose that because that lights me up.
Everyone else.
It just expands, and everyone else around you gets the benefit as well. I was just talking to my hairdresser today and got my hair did. And we were chatting, and I said to her, like, she's had her bars run twice, I think. She hasn't done any classes. She's just had a bars run twice with me. And she was saying, you know what? I actually don't get angry at my husband anymore. We don't actually like fight. And I'm like, yeah, that's in my world too. I don't actually react to my partner. We don't fight much. We have conversations that open
Yeah.
space for us.
Yeah.
But I was like, it was just a moment where I went, wow, these tools are so powerful, because she was feeling the same things I got from Access, that not being reactive and being relaxed after 2 sessions. And that was 2 years ago that I ran a class. She's like, I need to come and do it again. I'm like, yeah. But like, how powerful are they and amazing? And she just got out of that to choose herself in the relationship. And then everything changed around the whole relationship, not just her. Everyone in that dynamic could be honored.
Yeah, and I think that really is the key. Like, you just basically summed it all up in such a neat little thing, is really getting to that core of you and having all of that in as much of, or eventually in every moment of every day. And, you know, I was doing a class in India over the weekend. It's a conscious horse, conscious rider class, right? So you think it's going to be about horses, but you speak to anyone in that class and they're like, the horses facilitated me so much, but it was about them gaining and having and being more of them. And, you know, someone asked me that question, like, how do I get there? And I said, the first thing you've got to do, and really the only way to describe it, is to use the word be selfish. And we know, like, it's not at all that. It's just to try and give you that sense of where, if you're willing to just dive right into you, everything around, it's almost like it's the polar opposite. The deeper into you that you go, the more the whole world, and the more you open up, and the more everyone around you is affected in this way, that they're completely invited to have that for themselves. So yeah.
I know a question I often get asked is like, oh, why have you done foundation so many times? Or why have you done so many classes? And it's like, because I don't want to carry all the shit around. You know what I mean? Like, it's for me. And then guess what? Everyone else gets benefit of it.
Yeah.
I'd be selfish.
How cool is that?
I'm putting this money to it. Yep, I'm taking this time out. My partner looks after the kids, and I choose me, and then everyone else gets the benefit from it too. So it is what people call selfish, but it really is just choosing you and knowing that there's more possible if you're willing to let go of some of the stuff, if you're willing to expand your world out of what you know into something even greater, then be selfish, if that's what they call it. I wouldn't personally.
Exactly. So true. Thank you. This has been just such an amazing conversation, because it's really totally exactly what is up in my world at the moment. And I mean, the amount of foundations, and the next class after foundation just changed names. It was called Choice of Possibilities, and Gary's decided now we're calling it Choice for Possibilities, which I love, because every time we choose something, we choose for greater possibilities. When we're willing to function from this space, our choices become choices for greater possibilities for us, greater possibilities for everyone around us, and greater possibilities for this freaking amazing planet that we all get to share and live on. So I'm so grateful that we have these tools, and no matter like what part of the journey you're on, like, don't even worry, like, just let go of all of that part of like, like sometimes you just have these anxious moments, but it's like, as long as, like I was saying before, as long as you're choosing, you're automatically going in the right direction. It's like undeniable that this stuff's going to work for you.
Yeah. And I know this is a phrase that people can relate to, even if they're not really doing access consciousness. But like, for me, often when I'm making big choices, I always just remind myself, like, the universe has my back. That's one thing I always say. If it gives me fear, I'm just like, nah, the universe has my back. And it helps me make the choice. And I guess the thing with access consciousness is it's really about getting out of control. It's about getting out of control, asking for what you want, and then being willing to receive it. And I think that for me is something that I've loved, because I think without these tools, I already knew that it was possible. So now it's just like, now I'm like, I know. Now it's even more like obvious to me. But one of the things definitely is like, make the choice, ask for what you need around it, and then get out the road and let the universe actually have your back like it truly does.
So good. So good. And it's so true. And the thing I love about access is it takes the magic that we all know is possible, like what we've talked about here, what we knew from a very young age in this world exists, the things no one was willing to talk about when we were young, but we always knew, and we still know now if you're willing to tap into that. Sorry, there's a mosquito buzzing around. But it takes that magic and it gives you this set of practical tools, like very pragmatic and very practical ways, so that you can still exist on this world. You don't have to go and lock yourself in one of the, what do they call them in India? The ashrams, where you go and meditate and you do yoga for 6 months, unless that's what you want to do. You don't need to go to a hill in Tibet and pray, or it's literally, you can exist in this reality and create your reality and have all the freaking magic, all the access to all the magic you've ever dreamed possible. And it will give you tools to navigate and have that in your life. And
find the magic within yourself. I love that was something you said earlier on about like discovering what was great about you. Like, before Access Consciousness, I was doing things that were great, but I didn't ever acknowledge how great I like the gift that I actually was. Like, whether people call that confidence or whatever came with
whatever
it
the word is.
I just went from doing stuff to survive to actually going, wow, this is a gift, and I am a gift by being the person that delivers this. And like, that is so cool that you not only can receive the gift that the universe gives you, but you also, by using the tools and by getting your bars run for, definitely, like, you learn to realize
as much as possible.
And I, like, for me, it's a lot. I've had my bars run a lot, and I would say to everyone, like, you know, do it often, but you learn to really go, wow, there's so many great things about me. And like you said, it's just unfolds. It's not because someone tells you. It's not because you've done something to prove it. You just internally start to feel it and ooze it. And then all of a sudden you just feel confident and relaxed. And you're like, I'm actually great. And this is cool. And so is everyone around me. Which is even better.
Because the confidence, you know, in this reality, like we've thrown some words around here, like selfish and confidence. And in this reality, all of those things are built to exclude other people. Like, you see people that are famous and they're confident, and most of them function from a space of excluding people around them. There's not this inclusionary energy in their world. And the same with people that have been labeled as selfish, or that function from selfishness in this reality's terms. They exclude people. But the way that we're talking right now, where if you're willing to go inside of you to find you, and if you're willing to have this self-confidence, you actually include everyone, but not just everyone, absolutely everything around you, every tree, every plant, your house, your garden, your animals, like everything becomes a part of your journey, and you're totally inclusive of everything around you. And that's where everyone and everything, and I mean thing, is in your house. Like, I walked into my house yesterday after being away for 2 weeks, and the energy is different, right? Because I haven't been here. So I start having this inclusion with my house. And I mean, it's built from metal and bricks and wood and stuff. Like, it's not a living thing, but it actually is. Like, everything around us has consciousness. And when you get to this place of having this like sense of yourself, everything around you just starts to change. And I've been home for less than 24 hours, and you feel the energy, you feel everything start to change around you, and it's become an inclusive part of my whole world. So very cool.
And even I think, Sarah, I know, like, anyway, I even think with houses and stuff, you actually start to choose things that like energetically match you. Like, I've lived in a lot of houses. This is the first house that I picked within a description. I was like, I want this, I would love this, 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 this. And it's the first house that I've actually included myself in picking and buying. And now it's the same. There's this energy of like, wow, this really matches me. This really has, you know, all of the things that you want. And even my pets now, it's just everything. You definitely include yourself in that story, and it delivers you the things that really match you energetically, which is so cool.
Cool. Well, believe it or not, we've been going for just on nearly 30 minutes. Like, how the hell did that happen? So let's and maybe we could do another one of these as well. But basically, we did have a bit of an ulterior motive as well with this, and not necessarily, you know, because the bottom line is, however you get to them, what I'm sure both Megs and I are inviting you to is to explore these tools that are Access Consciousness. So you can find a bunch of free stuff online. You can get your bars run by a practitioner. You can take a bars class. once you've taken a bars class, the next step or the next thing that you can start exploring, and there's other things as well, like a bazillion other things, but the thing that we wanted to talk to you about today is the foundation class. And I have a foundation class coming up. So, but there's literally hundreds and thousands of facilitators around the world facilitating these classes. You do need to go live. So they will do them in their home. Mine's in my home, a very special place to me that I'm inviting anyone that would like to come and share my home for a few days.
Can I share my ulterior motive, Sarah, of actually asking you to do this?
We're so sneaky, basically.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sneaky on you. Like, you're so humble, and I really wanted you to just like showcase how magnificent you are and the life that you really have created. Like, I've been lucky enough to meet you of recent in person and go to your house, and it was inspiring to me just being in your energy and then like watching you and watching your track. Like, for me, the reason of being here is to really showcase like this wonderful person who has a fabulous foundation class coming up. I mean, all of the foundations are fabulous. But I'm extremely excited about attending yours at your house with your horses and all of the environment that's there. So please know, like, that's my sneaky little reason.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, awesome. And I mean, I guess, you know, the more you facilitate, the more you get more of you as well. Like, the other cool thing about facilitating is obviously I'm here during the class for everyone that attends my class. But the other cool thing about Access and about consciousness is it's this continuous flow of energy where every time I facilitate, I actually become a greater person and have more of myself as well. So I think over this time that I've been facilitating classes, I've been finding more of me. And I think, you know, the way I facilitate is to hopefully create that invitation for everyone as well. And I tend to have a very direct approach about things too. So if you're looking at changing some things in your life and you've been like, oh, I might have been avoiding that for a little while, feel free to come along and I'll help you like just look at things very pragmatically, and then we can apply some tools and ask some questions, and we can learn some body processes and just watch the magic and the pragmatics work together in a way that can change anything.
And we have some new body processes. Is this correct?
Yeah, it is
exciting.
Yeah, a whole new manual. So what would it take? Yeah, and what would it take for the manual to be ready by the time this class happens? But even if it's not, we'll talk about all the things that's going to be in the new manual anyway. There's some new processes, some new body processes, and I'm very, very excited. So Alison the Wonderful has just posted the link. You can find me also. I have a website and Facebook. I mean, you're here, so you'll find it.
Yeah. So that's 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away.
Yeah,
it's just around the corner.
Next weekend's Easter, and then it's the weekend after that. So
one of the prereqs is a bars class.
Yep.
And if you're anywhere near Dolby, I actually have one on this weekend on Sunday.
Go. Yes.
So there's lots of things happening.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure. It was lovely talking to you. It was lovely.
You too. You're amazing. I'm so excited.
It was lovely, like just exchanging all of that like change that I think that, you know, is so similar but so different at the same time. So thank you for having me.
But isn't it cool? Yeah, and isn't it cool how when even just two people coming together, like this conversation's created so much for me as well. Like it's so cool as well. And this is what I was talking about before with that connection with others, where you just come together with people and your whole world just changes again and again and again. So in the foundation class, it'll be similar. Same with bars classes. Get along and get together with some people that are really looking.
And I think that's the cool thing about going to the live classes is you're getting contribution from your facilitator, but you're getting contribution from everyone in that class and all the things that are around. And it's just an amazing environment to really feel supported to make those changes. That's what I love about live classes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, my friend.
No worries.
Thank you for watching. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you somewhere in the world soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye. See you, Megs. Bye, everyone.